The fluorescent lights hummed their midnight song across the 42nd floor of Volkov Industries. Reid pushed his cleaning cart past the glass-walled conference room, its wheels squeaking against polished marble. Inside, 3 men in tailored suits lounged around a table scattered with contracts and champagne flutes. Dmitri, Volkov's laughter cut through the silence like breaking glass. The millionaire leaned back in his leather chair, cobalt blue tie loosened, watching Marcus through the transparent wall. He said something in Russian, guttural and dismissive. His associates erupted in laughter, their faces flushed with expensive liquor and shared cruelty. Marcus's hand tightened on the cleaning cart handle. He understood every word. Dmitri noticed the janitor had stopped moving. He stood, pressed his palm against the glass and spoke louder in Russian. His breath fogged the surface. "The monkey doesn't even know we're talking about him." The words hung in the air like poison. Dmitri turned to his associates, switching to English with theatrical flair. "I'll make this interesting, gentlemen." He walked to the conference room door, swung it open. "You there, janitor?" Marcus met his eyes but said nothing. "I just spoke in my native tongue. Beautiful language, Russian, full of nuance." Dmitri's smile was all teeth, no warmth. "Tell me. Translate what I said and I'll give you my monthly salary. Right now, $100,000. The associate snickered behind him. Marcus stood perfectly still. The cart's wheels had stopped squeaking. The building's ventilation system whispered through overhead ducts. Dmitri's cologne, something expensive and heavy, drifted across the threshold. Nothing. Dmitri spread his hands. "Such a generous offer, and вы сказали, что обезьяна даже не знает, что мы говорим о нем," Marcus said quietly. The Russian rolled off his tongue like he'd never stopped speaking it. "You said the monkey doesn't even know we're talking about him." The color drained from Dmitri Volkov's face. 20 minutes earlier, Marcus Reid had clocked in through the service entrance on 5th Avenue. At 58, he moved with the careful economy of a man who'd learned to conserve energy across 12-hour shifts. His emerald green uniform hung loose on his frame. He'd lost weight since his daughter started medical school. The security guard had barely looked up from his phone. "Evening, Marcus." "Evening, Tony. Same exchange every night for 6 years. Invisible had its advantages. Marcus collected his cart from the janitorial closet on sub-level 2. Cleaning solutions lined up like soldiers. Ammonia, glass cleaner, floor polish. Each bottle had its purpose, its place. He'd organized this closet himself, bringing order to chaos the way he once organized embassy translation schedules in another lifetime. The building directory listed Volkov Industries across floors 38 through 43. Tech acquisition firm, the business pages called it. Dmitri Volkov had built a fortune identifying struggling companies, purchasing them for pennies, then flipping them for millions. Self-made, the magazine said, arrived from Moscow in 1995, with nothing but ambition. Marcus had read the profiles while eating lunch in the break room. He read everything: newspapers from the recycling bins, documents left on copy machines, the stories people thought no one noticed. His daughter Maya's photo stayed tucked in his shirt pocket. Her acceptance letter to Columbia Medical School had arrived 8 months ago. The scholarship covered tuition, but living expenses in New York City devoured his paychecks. She'd wanted to defer, get a job first. "Dad, you're already working yourself to death. I'm working so you can have life," he'd told her. Every night, Marcus rode the service elevator to the 42nd floor and started there, working his way down. Executive offices required meticulous attention. CEOs noticed fingerprints on glass, coffee rings on mahogany, the subtle evidence that other humans existed in their spaces. Dmitri Volkov's office occupied the northwest corner. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city's glittering sprawl. Most nights Marcus cleaned alone in darkness, watching his reflection move across glass like a ghost. But tonight, lights blazed in the conference room. Voices echoed. Marcus had learned long ago. People spoke freely around janitors, discussed deals, affairs, embezzlement. They saw the uniform, not the person inside it. He'd trained himself not to listen, to focus on baseboards and trash cans and the simple mathematics of cleaning. Spray, wipe, move on. Tonight would be different. Dmitry Volkov stood at the conference room window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Russian. Marcus caught fragments while emptying a recycling bin 20 feet away. Something about transfer schedules, discrepancy reports. The Cyrillic contract spread across the table behind Volkov, glowed under halogen lights. Marcus's hands remembered how to hold more than cleaning rags. They remembered typewriters, diplomatic cables, the weight of simultaneous interpretation headphones. Moscow, 1987, the American Embassy. Cold War's final act. He'd been somebody once. The memory dissolved when Volkov's associates arrived, 2 men in expensive suits carrying leather folders. They greeted Dmitry in English, but within minutes the conversation shifted to Russian. Comfortable, private, or so they thought. Marcus pushed his cart past the conference room. The wheels squeaked. Inside, Dmitry laughed and pointed at him. That's when it started. The silence after Marcus spoke Russian stretched like pulled wire. Dmitry Volkov's associates exchanged glances, champagne flutes frozen halfway to their lips. The older one, grey-haired with wire-rim glasses, set his glass down carefully. Marcus stood in the doorway, cleaning cart behind him, waiting. Dmitry recovered first. His businessman's smile snapped back into place, but something cold flickered behind his eyes. Well, how unexpected. He switched to English, voice carrying forced joviality. My apologies. That was inappropriate. Yes, it was. Marcus's tone stayed level. Professional, you speak Russian. Dmitry stepped closer, studying Marcus like he'd just discovered a familiar painting in a stranger's house. Where did you learn? State Department. Translator Cold War era, the associates murmured. Dmitry's smile widened, but his jaw tightened. And now you're a janitor, yes. Quite a career change. Dmitry pulled out his wallet, extracted a stack of hundreds. Nevertheless, I'm a man of my word. You translated correctly. Here's, keep it. Marcus nodded toward the wallet. I don't need payment for being right. The words landed harder than Marcus intended. Dmitry's hand paused mid-air, bills fanned between manicured fingers. His associates went still. Pride is expensive, Dmitry said softly, still smiling. Always smiling. Marcus turned to leave, but his eyes caught the documents spread across the conference table. Cyrillic text filled the margins of what looked like acquisition contracts. Standard corporate paperwork, except for the Russian addendums. Dense paragraphs in a language most American lawyers couldn't read. One phrase jumped out. Фактическая стоимость перевода. Actual transfer value. Next to it, an English summary sheet listed completely different numbers. Marcus's trained eye, the one that had once caught discrepancies in Soviet trade agreements, recognized the pattern instantly. The English version and Russian version told 2 different stories. Dmitry noticed where Marcus was looking. His smile finally vanished. Interesting documents, Marcus said quietly. Confidential documents. Dmitry moved to the table, casually covering papers with his forearms. I'm sure you understand. Corporate privacy. Of course. Marcus gripped his cart handle. I should get back to work. Yes, you should. Dmitry walked to the door, placed one hand on the frame. His cologne was stronger up close, suffocating. That bet earlier. Forget I offered money. Forget this entire conversation. Hard to forget being called a monkey. Dmitry flinched. Good. Let him feel something. You're upset. Understandable. Dmitry pulled out his wallet again, extracted $500 bills. For your trouble and your discretion. Marcus looked at the money, then at Dmitry's face. The millionaire's eyes had gone flat, calculating. This wasn't generosity. It was a down payment on silence. I don't want your money, Mr. Volkov. Everyone wants money, not everyone. Marcus pushed his cart into the hallway. The wheels squeaked their protest. "Have a good evening, gentlemen." Behind him he heard rapid Russian, Dmitri speaking to his associates in urgent, clipped sentences. Marcus caught 3 words before the conference room door closed. "Problem, security, tomorrow." The elevator doors slid shut, sealing Marcus in fluorescent silence. His reflection stared back from polished steel. Emerald green uniform, grey hair. Invisible man suddenly very visible. His heart hammered against his ribs. Those documents weren't just confidential. They were fraudulent. The janitor's closet on sub-level 2 smelled like industrial cleaner and old mop water. Marcus locked the door behind him, hands shaking as he gripped the utility sink's edge. Cold porcelain anchored him to the present moment. His reflection in the small mirror showed a stranger. Or maybe someone he used to know. The Russian had come back effortlessly, muscle memory from decades ago. "Вы сказали, you said." His tongue had shaped the sounds without conscious thought, bypassing years of deliberate silence. He'd stopped speaking Russian after the State Department eliminated his position in 1993. Stopped thinking in it. Let it fossilize in unused corners of his brain until tonight. Marcus's phone buzzed. Maya texting from her study group. Still at library. "Don't wait up." "Love you, Dad," he typed back. "Love you too." Study hard, the simple exchange steadied him. This was why he cleaned offices, to give her opportunities he'd lost. Medical school. A future where she'd never push cleaning carts or swallow casual cruelty from men like Dmitri Volkov. But those documents haunted him. 30 years in translation taught Marcus to see patterns. The Russian addendums weren't mistakes or oversights. They were deliberate. The English contracts promised investors one set of terms: acquisition costs, profit projections, asset valuations. The Russian fine print revealed something else entirely. Shell companies, inflated values, money flowing in directions nobody watching the English versions would catch. How much? Hard to say from a glance, but the numbers he'd seen suggested millions. Tens of millions, maybe more. Marcus closed his eyes. His old supervisor's voice echoed. "Language reveals what people hide, Marcus. Always listen to what they say when they think no one's listening." Catherine Hayes. She'd retired from the State Department, moved to SEC investigations last he'd heard. That was years ago. She'd be 70 now, probably enjoying retirement somewhere warm. His phone stayed silent in his hand. Who could he call? Building security worked for Volkov. HR answered to Volkov. The police would ask for evidence he didn't have, couldn't access, had no legal right to possess. A janitor accusing a millionaire of fraud. That story ended one way. Marcus splashed cold water on his face. Droplets ran down his collar, soaking into emerald green fabric. When he looked up, his reflection had changed again. Not the invisible janitor, not the Cold War translator, something in between. Someone who'd seen too much to pretend he hadn't. His daughter's graduation photo sat in his locker. He pulled it out, studied her smile. She'd inherited his eyes, his stubborn jaw, her mother's grace, thankfully. Maya believed in justice, in speaking up, in not letting powerful people crush the vulnerable. She'd learned that from him, back when he still believed it himself. The closet walls pressed in. Marcus pocketed the photo and unlocked the door. His shift had 7 hours left, 40 floors to clean. He could push his cart, empty trash cans, forget what he'd seen, or he could remember who he used to be. Moscow, 1987. Marcus Reid at 25, shoulders squared in a charcoal suit, standing in the U.S. Embassy's translation booth. Snow fell outside thick windows, blanketing Red Square in white silence. Inside, Soviet and American negotiators argued over grain shipments, while Marcus translated in real time. His gift had revealed itself early. Languages flowed into his mind like music, each one a different key signature. Russian, French, German, Mandarin. By 23, he'd mastered 7. The State Department recruited him straight from Georgetown, assigned him to Moscow during Glasnost's fragile dawn. He'd been somebody then, essential. Catherine Hayes, his supervisor, had called him the bridge between worlds. You don't just translate words, Marcus. You translate intention. That's rare. 3 years in Moscow, watching the Soviet Union crack apart, then Berlin, then Washington. By 30, he'd briefed senators, advised ambassadors, sat in rooms where history pivoted on precisely chosen phrases. Marriage to Diane, an embassy aide. Maya, born in 1990, perfect and small, sleeping in a bassinet while Marcus prepared briefs at midnight. The Cold War ended. Budget cuts followed. Specialized translators became expendable, cheaper to hire contractors. Marcus's position was restructured in 1993. Diane left 2 years later, exhausted by his inability to adapt, to sell his skills, to be anything other than what he'd trained to be. You're clinging to something dead, she'd said, packing Maya's clothes into cardboard boxes. The world moved on. Why can't you? He'd tried. Corporate translation, too impersonal. Teaching. Budget cuts hit schools harder than embassies. Freelance work dried up as automated software improved. By 40, he was applying for positions that required high school diplomas and strong backs. The first janitorial interview had felt like dying. But Maya needed stability. Needed a parent who showed up, who paid rent, who put food on the table without excuses. So Marcus Reid learned to empty trash cans with the same precision he'd once applied to diplomatic cables. Catherine Hayes had called once, 5 years ago. SEC investigation, Russian money laundering through tech companies. Did Marcus still speak the language? Could he consult? I'm out of that world, he'd told her. I just clean offices now. Marcus, you're wasting, I know what I'm wasting. He'd hung up gently. Protecting Maya meant staying invisible. No risks, no complications, no reminders of who he'd been. Just the quiet mathematics of survival. Earn, save, pay tuition, repeat. But tonight Dmitry Volkov had spoken Russian in front of him. And Marcus's gift had awakened like a sleeper agent hearing a trigger phrase. His mentor's lesson echoed, "Language reveals what people hide." Those documents weren't just corporate fraud. They were a message in a language Dmitry assumed nobody could read. Arrogance masked as privacy. The same arrogance that called a janitor a monkey, that offered money for silence. That assumed invisibility meant irrelevance. Marcus finished his shift at 6 a.m. Dawn turned the city's glass towers gold. He rode the subway home, surrounded by morning commuters with their coffee and smartphones. Nobody looked at the tired janitor in the emerald green uniform. Perfect. In his studio apartment, Marcus made coffee and booted up his ancient laptop. His fingers remembered how to navigate databases. State Department alumni networks, SEC public records, professional directories. Catherine Hayes, retired, living in Alexandria, Virginia. Consulting for federal financial investigations, he found her email buried in a Georgetown University alumni page. His cursor blinked in the empty message field. What could he say? Remember me? I saw something. Evidence he didn't have. Accusations he couldn't prove from a janitor nobody would believe. Marcus closed the laptop, poured his coffee down the sink. Some bridges stayed burned for good reason. 3 nights later, Marcus returned to the 42nd floor. His badge beeped green at the elevator checkpoint. Still active, still authorized. Dmitry hadn't fired him. Yet. The conference room lights were off. Volkov's private office sat dark and empty. Marcus checked his watch. 11:47 p.m. Executives rarely worked past 10. He cleaned the hallway first, establishing routine. Vacuumed carpets, wiped door handles, emptied recycling bins. Building security cameras tracked his movements. Everything normal, nothing suspicious. Just the night janitor maintaining his pattern. At 12:15 a.m., Marcus unlocked the conference room with his master key. The documents were gone from the table. Of course, Dmitri wasn't careless, but Marcus had spent years in embassies learning how information flows. People make copies, file paperwork, leave trails. He checked the recycling bin first, empty. Checked the credenza drawers, locked. The printer's document queue, password protected. Marcus stood in the center of the conference room, thinking like a translator again. Where would someone put documents they needed nearby but hidden? Not the main office, too obvious. Not locked drawers, too permanent. His eyes found the ventilation grate near the floor, too cinematic. This was reality, not a movie. But when Marcus knelt and tested the grate, it shifted. Loose screws easily removed. Behind it, a gap in the ductwork. His phone flashlight revealed a leather document folder. Marcus's heart hammered. Security cameras watched the conference room. But this angle, kneeling by the vent, might look like he was cleaning baseboards. He pulled out his phone, photographed the documents through the vent opening without removing them. Russian acquisition contracts. 3 different companies. English summaries on letterhead. Russian addendums clipped behind. His translator's eye caught it immediately. Severstal Holdings, purchased for $15 million according to English documents. Russian addendum listed actual payment, $3 million. Difference, $12 million transferred to shell companies Dmitri-controlled. Novgorod Technologies, purchased for $22 million. Russian addendum, $8 million actual. Difference, $14 million Baltic Ventures, purchased for $48 million. Russian addendum, $12 million actual. Difference, $36 million. Total discrepancy, $62 million. Marcus's hands shook as he photographed each page. The Russian text was dense, technical, deliberately obscure. Investors reviewing English summaries would never know they'd been defrauded. Dmitri purchased struggling companies for pennies, claimed he'd paid millions, pocketed the difference, brilliant, criminal, sustainable only because nobody checked the Russian fine print, nobody except a janitor who used to translate Soviet trade agreements. Marcus replaced the folder exactly as he'd found it, screwed the vent grate back. His phone held 17 photographs, enough to expose the fraud if anyone believed him. Big if. He finished cleaning the conference room, his movements mechanical. Sprayed glass cleaner on the table, wiped it down, emptied the trash. Outside the windows, the city glittered with indifferent beauty. Somewhere in those towers people made fortunes while janitors mopped floors. But tonight, the invisible man had seen everything. Marcus's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text message in Russian. Любопытство опасно. Curiosity is dangerous. His blood froze. A second message appeared, this time in English. We know you came back. Delete the photos. Marcus looked up at the conference room camera. Its red light blinked steadily. They'd been watching the whole time. Morning light filtered through security blinds at Volkov Industries' main entrance. Marcus approached the front desk, phone gripped tight in his pocket. He deleted nothing. The photograph stayed backed up to his email, encrypted, ready. Tony, the security guard, glanced up from his computer. Marcus, you're here early. Shift doesn't start till 10 tonight. Need to speak with someone in management. About a safety concern. Tony frowned. Safety? Like what? Equipment? Documents. Irregularities I noticed while cleaning. Marcus kept his voice steady. Who handles compliance issues? HR, I guess. Or legal. Tony picked up his phone. Want me to call someone? Please. 20 minutes later, Marcus sat in a windowless HR office across from Jennifer Morrison, Director of Human Resources. She wore a white blouse and professional smile, taking notes on a tablet while Marcus explained he'd noticed documents with translation discrepancies. And you read these documents while cleaning? Jennifer's smile never wavered. Some were visible. I have translation experience, I noticed. Mr. Reid. She set down her tablet. Our employee handbook is very clear about confidentiality. You're not authorized to review company documents. I wasn't reviewing them. I saw them. Saw confidential acquisition contracts. Her tone sharpened. That sounds like deliberate examination to me. Marcus felt the conversation slipping. I'm reporting potential fraud. You're reporting that you violated company privacy policies. Jennifer stood. I'll need to consult with legal. Wait here, please. She left. Marcus sat alone with fluorescent lights humming overhead. Through the office's small window, he watched employees hurry past with coffee cups and laptops. Normal Tuesday morning. Nobody noticed the janitor in the HR office. 30 minutes passed. When the door opened, 2 men in suits entered. Corporate lawyers from their briefcases and predatory politeness. Mr. Reid, I'm David Chen, General Counsel. This is my associate, Paul Warren. No handshake offered. We understand you've made allegations about company documents. Not allegations, observations. The Russian text doesn't match. Do you have these documents? Marcus hesitated. Photographs. Photographs of confidential materials taken without authorization. David Chen opened his briefcase, pulled out a tablet, tapped the screen. We've reviewed security footage. You accessed the 42nd floor conference room at 12:15 a.m., spent 40 minutes there, and removed items from a ventilation duct. I didn't remove anything. I photographed theft of proprietary information. Clear termination grounds, possibly criminal. Chen's voice stayed level, almost bored. Delete the photographs now. We'll consider not pressing charges. Those documents prove fraud. Those documents prove you violated your employment agreement, your confidentiality clause, and multiple federal privacy laws. Chen leaned forward. Mr. Reid, let me be direct. You're a janitor making accusations against a respected CEO based on documents you can't legally possess. Who do you think will be believed? The truth hit Marcus like cold water. They had lawyers, security footage, resources. He had 17 photographs and fading idealism. Paul Warren spoke for the first time. We're prepared to offer severance. 6 months' salary. Sign a non-disclosure agreement, delete the photos, and walk away. Blood money. Silence money. Marcus thought of Maya's tuition. 6 months' salary would cover most of her living expenses through the semester. I need time to think. You have 1 hour. Chen stood. After that, we file charges. Corporate espionage carries serious penalties. They left him alone again. The HR office felt smaller now, walls pressing in. Through the window, Marcus watched Dmitry Volkov emerge from the executive elevator, laughing with associates. Royal blue suit today, perfectly tailored. He glanced toward the HR office, made brief eye contact with Marcus through the glass. His smile was almost sympathetic. Almost. Marcus pulled out his phone. His daughter's contact photo smiled at him. Graduation day, cap and gown, bright future ahead. His finger hovered over the delete button. 1 hour to choose between justice and survival. Marcus left Volkov Industries at 10:47 a.m. with 17 photographs still on his phone. He'd told the lawyers he needed to use the bathroom, then walked straight to the service elevator and exited through the loading dock. His security badge stayed on Jennifer Morrison's desk. Let them file charges. Some things mattered more than fear. He walked 12 blocks before stopping, checking over his shoulder. Nobody followed yet. The morning crowd swallowed him. Delivery drivers, office workers, tourists. Invisible again, but by choice this time. A coffee shop on 6th Avenue offered free Wi-Fi. Marcus ordered black coffee he couldn't taste and sat in the back corner, laptop open. His old State Department contacts were outdated, but Catherine Hayes's email still worked. He typed carefully, "Catherine, it's Marcus Reid. I know it's been years. I need your help. I've uncovered significant financial fraud. Russian documents concealing real transaction values. Please call me. It's urgent." He hit send before he could reconsider. His phone showed 11:03 a.m. Maya would be in anatomy class now, focused on cadavers and Latin terminology, building her future. He drafted a text explaining everything, the confrontation, the documents, the choice he'd made, then deleted it unsent. She'd worry. Try to fix it. Drop out to help him. No. She stayed focused on medical school. This was his problem. His coffee went cold while he waited. Outside the window, New York performed its daily choreography, everyone moving somewhere important, nobody seeing the janitor nursing empty cups. At 11:47 a.m., his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Marcus's finger hesitated over the answer button. Could be Catherine. Could be Volkov's lawyers. Could be worse, he answered. Hello? Is this Marcus Reid? A woman's voice, unfamiliar. Not Catherine. Who's asking? My name is Sarah Chen. I'm a producer for Channel 7 News. We received an anonymous tip about potential fraud at Volkov Industries. Your name was mentioned. Marcus's blood froze. I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Reid, if you have information... He hung up, stared at his phone like it had transformed into something dangerous. Someone had leaked his name to the press. But who? The lawyers? Volkov himself getting ahead of the story? Or someone else entirely? Trying to help or hurt him? A second call came through. Different unknown number. Mr. Reid, this is Detective Martinez with the NYPD Financial Crimes Unit. We need you to come in for questioning regarding allegations of corporate espionage. Marcus hung up again. His hands shook. They were coming from every direction. Press, police, lawyers. Volkov had activated every resource to crush him before he could speak. A text message arrived. This time from a blocked number, text in Russian again. Ваша дочь ходит по Бродвею каждое утро. Your daughter walks down Broadway every morning. Marcus's vision blurred. They'd mentioned Maya. Not subtle threat, explicit. A second text, English now. Columbia Medical School, Building 3. Leaves at 7 a.m. for coffee. Walks alone. The coffee shop walls tilted. Marcus grabbed the table edge, steadying himself. Fury and fear warred in his chest. They were threatening his daughter. The only thing that mattered. The only reason he'd stayed invisible for years. His phone buzzed again. Catherine Hayes finally calling. Marcus? I got your email. What's going on? He couldn't speak. Words jammed in his throat. Marcus, talk to me. They threatened Maya, he whispered. They know her routine. They're watching her. Silence on the line. Then where are you right now? Coffee shop. 6th Avenue. Stay there. I'm making calls. Do not go home. Do not contact your daughter. They're probably monitoring. Just sit tight, the line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone's black screen. His reflection stared back. Janitor uniform, gray hair. Man who'd chosen integrity and might lose everything because of it. Outside, a black sedan pulled up to the coffee shop. Two men in dark suits emerged. One spoke into a phone while scanning the street. The other looked directly through the window, met Marcus's eyes. They'd found him. Marcus grabbed his laptop and ran for the back exit. The alley behind the coffee shop reeked of garbage and exhaust. He ran east, then north, ducking through crowds, losing himself in Manhattan's concrete maze. His phone stayed silent. No Catherine, no Maya, just the 17 photographs of fraud that might cost him everything. Behind him, footsteps echoed. Marcus rode the subway to nowhere. Train after train, switching lines randomly, watching reflections in dark windows for faces that followed. The Tuesday afternoon crowd pressed around him. Students, workers, tourists, all absorbed in their own orbits while his world collapsed. At 3 p.m., he emerged at a station in Queens he'd never visited. Found a library, logged into a guest computer with shaking hands. His email showed nothing from Catherine. No missed calls. Just spam and a tuition reminder from Columbia. Maya was in class right now, unaware that men in black sedans knew her coffee routine. Marcus searched news sites. Nothing about Volkov Industries. The story hadn't broken yet, or been buried before it could. Power worked like that, crushing threats before they became visible. He checked his phone battery, 17%. No charger. The photographs still lived in encrypted cloud storage, but without phone or computer access, they meant nothing. Outside the library windows, October rain started falling. Grey sky, grey streets, grey future. Marcus thought about his apartment, lease under his name, easily found. His bank account, pathetic savings easily frozen. His daughter, his only vulnerability, the knife at his throat. Everything he'd built through 6 years of invisible survival was gone. One conversation in Russian, one glimpse of fraudulent documents, one choice to speak truth instead of swallowing it. The library's fluorescent lights hummed the same frequency as Volkov Industries. Marcus closed his eyes, saw Dmitri's smile, heard the Russian slur monkey, felt the weight of decades spent making himself small, forgettable, safe. His mentor's photograph sat on a shelf in his apartment. Catherine Hayes receiving a State Department commendation in 1992. She'd believed in him once, told him his gift mattered. Now she wasn't answering. Marcus's phone battery hit 10%. He powered it off to conserve what remained. The library clock showed 4:17 p.m. In 3 hours, Maya would finish studying and walk home alone down Broadway. Would she notice if someone followed? Would she run? He'd failed to protect her, failed to stay invisible, failed at the only thing that mattered. Rain drummed against windows. Marcus sat motionless, a man erased. Then his phone buzzed. One last notification before shutdown. Text message from an unknown number. Penn Station. Track 12, 6 p.m. Come alone. C.H. Catherine Hayes. Hope felt dangerous. But Marcus stood anyway. Penn Station at 5:47 p.m. was controlled chaos. Commuters flooding platforms, announcements echoing, the smell of pretzels and diesel exhaust. Marcus kept his hood up, moving through crowds like a ghost in an emerald green uniform he couldn't change. Track 12 sat mostly empty, departures finished for the rush. Catherine Hayes stood near the platform's end, grey hair pulled back, wearing a burgundy coat and sensible shoes. She looked older than Marcus remembered, but her eyes stayed sharp. She saw him and nodded once. "Walk with me." They moved deeper into the station, away from cameras and crowds. Catherine spoke quietly. "I made calls. SEC investigators have suspected Volkov for 3 years. Never had evidence. I have photographs. 17 documents showing I know what you have. I've seen them." Marcus stopped walking. "How?" "Your cloud backup. I still have access codes from when we worked together." Catherine's expression was apologetic. "Sorry for the privacy invasion. But Marcus, these documents are extraordinary. They prove systematic fraud across multiple acquisitions. We're talking 80 million, maybe more." The number staggered him. 80 million. SEC analysts are reviewing your photographs right now. If authentication holds, they'll move immediately. How immediately? Emergency injunction by morning. Asset freeze. Full investigation. Catherine gripped his arm. "But there's a problem." Of course there was. The photographs are inadmissible. You obtained them without authorization, violated corporate privacy policies. Any defense lawyer will argue fruit of the poisonous tree. Evidence gets thrown out. Marcus felt hope dying. So it's worthless. Not worthless, inadmissible. Catherine pulled him into a recessed doorway away from passing commuters. "But if you testify as an expert witness, someone who accidentally noticed discrepancies while performing legitimate job duties, the documents become supporting evidence, not primary." They fired me. Said I stole proprietary information. They threatened to fire you. Did you sign termination papers? Marcus replayed the HR meeting. No, I walked out. Then technically you're still employed. Still authorized to be on that floor, still performing duties. Catherine's smile was grim. Lawyers love technicalities. They threatened Maya. Catherine's expression hardened. I know. FBI is sending protection to her campus right now. She'll have security until this is over. She'll be terrified. She'll be alive. Catherine's voice cut through his fear. Marcus, listen to me. These people are desperate. That means you're dangerous to them. That means you have power. Power, the word felt foreign. There's an emergency hearing tomorrow morning. Federal Courthouse, 9 a.m. SEC, is requesting an injunction to freeze Volkov's assets pending investigation. They need you to testify. About what? Translation methodology. How you identified discrepancies. Your qualifications. Catherine met his eyes. You're the bridge again, Marcus. The only person who can explain what those Russian documents actually mean. The State Department phrase, the bridge. Marcus hadn't heard it in 30 years. What if I can't do it? What if I freeze? You won't. You've been translating your whole life. Words, intentions, the space between what people say and what they mean. Catherine checked her watch. Safe house tonight, Queens, FBI protection. Tomorrow you tell the truth in a language everyone understands. Marcus thought of Dimitri's smile, the casual cruelty of calling him a monkey. Thought of Maya walking to coffee alone. Thought of 6 years staying invisible while injustice happened in plain sight. Okay, I'll testify. Catherine squeezed his shoulder. There's the Marcus I remember. They walked toward the exit together. Rain had stopped, leaving streets slick and reflective. A black SUV waited at the curb, federal vehicle, tinted windows. Catherine opened the door. One more thing, Marcus said. The men who followed me today, who were they? Private security. Volkov's trying to intimidate you before you talk. It's working. Good, fear means you're taking this seriously. Catherine smiled. But don't let it stop you. Tomorrow you translate his lies into truth. That's what bridges do. Marcus climbed into the SUV. Federal agents nodded from the front seats, armed, professional, real. The door closed with a solid thunk, sealing him in safety for the first time in days. Through tinted windows, he watched Manhattan slide past. Somewhere in those towers, Dmitry Volkov was making phone calls, assembling lawyers, preparing counterattacks. But somewhere else, Maya studied anatomy, protected now. And 17 photographs sat encrypted in SEC servers, waiting to be translated. The invisible man had become visible. Tomorrow he'd show them what that meant. Federal Courthouse, Wednesday morning. Courtroom 7B filled with lawyers, journalists, and federal investigators. Marcus sat behind the prosecutor's table, wearing his only suit, charcoal gray purchased for Maya's high school graduation. Catherine Hayes sat beside him, calm and steady. Across the aisle, Dmitry Volkov commanded a team of 6 lawyers in matching navy suits. He wore royal blue today, tailored perfectly, looking every inch the successful CEO. When his eyes found Marcus, they carried no anger. Just cold calculation. Judge Patricia Morrison entered at 9:02 a.m. Everyone rose. Be seated. This is an emergency hearing regarding SEC Petition 2024-7731. Injunction against Volkov Industries pending fraud investigation. Judge Morrison adjusted her glasses. Counselors, opening statements. The SEC attorney stood. Your Honor, we've uncovered evidence of systematic fraud. Acquisition contracts with dual documentation, English and Russian versions containing materially different terms. We request immediate asset freeze. Dimitri's lead counsel rose smoothly. Your Honor, David Chen for the defense. This is prosecutorial overreach, based on illegally obtained documents and testimony from a disgruntled former employee with no relevant expertise. Former employee. Judge Morrison looked at her notes. Mr. Reid is still listed on company payroll. Chen hesitated. A technicality we're addressing. Technicalities matter in my courtroom, Mr. Chen. The judge turned to the prosecutor. Call your first witness. The SEC calls Marcus Reid. Marcus's legs felt distant as he walked to the witness stand. Swore on the Bible with hands that wanted to shake. Sat facing a courtroom full of skeptical faces. The prosecutor approached. Mr. Reid, please state your current occupation. Night janitor at Volkov Industries. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Dimitri's lawyers exchanged glances. This was their expert? And your previous occupation? State Department translator. Russian, German, French, and 4 other languages. 20 years experience. specializing in Soviet and post-Soviet documentation. The murmurs stopped. "How did you encounter the documents in question?" Marcus explained, cleaning the conference room, noticing Russian text, recognizing translation discrepancies. His voice stayed level, professional. This was just translation work, what he'd trained for. The prosecutor displayed the first document on courtroom monitors. "Can you read this Russian text?" Marcus leaned forward. "Severstal Holdings. Фактическая стоимость перехода. $3 million. He switched to English. "Severstal Holdings. Actual transfer value, $3 million. And the English summary states $15 million. $12 million discrepancy." The prosecutor walked him through all three contracts. Marcus translated each Russian addendum, his voice never wavering. The numbers mounted: 12 million, 14 million, 36 million. Total fraud, $62 million. David Chen stood for cross-examination. "Mr. Reid, you claim expertise in translation. Where's your certification?" "State Department clearance. 20 years of diplomatic, 20 years ago." "What translation work have you done recently?" "None professionally." "So you're an unemployed janitor claiming to be an expert?" Chen's tone dripped skepticism. "I'm an expert who works as a janitor." The skills didn't disappear when the job title changed. Scattered laughter from the gallery. Chen frowned. "These documents were obtained illegally. You accessed them without authorization. I accessed a conference room I'm assigned to clean. Documents were visible during my regular duties. You photographed them secretly. I documented what appeared to be evidence of fraud, which I reported to HR. Marcus met Chen's eyes. "They threatened to fire me for noticing." That seemed suspicious. More laughter. Judge Morrison's gavel came down. "Order." Chen tried another angle. "You can't prove these Russian addendums are authentic." "Your Honor," the prosecutor interrupted, "we have a forensics expert standing by to verify paper stock, ink dating, and signature authentication. Would defense like us to call that witness?" Chen glanced at Dmitri, who shook his head slightly. "Not necessary at this time." "Mr. Reid," the judge said, "in your expert opinion, do these documents show intentional fraud or simple translation errors?" Marcus took a breath. This was the moment. "The bridge between worlds, Your Honor. I've translated thousands of Russian documents. Commercial, diplomatic, technical. These aren't errors." He gestured to the monitors. "The Russian text uses specific legal terminology. Фактическая стоимость, actual value, versus заявленная стоимость, declared value. The author knew exactly what they were writing. The documents are designed so English-speaking investors see one set of numbers, while Russian-speaking partners see the truth. It's sophisticated, deliberate, and criminal." Silence filled the courtroom. Dimitri's face had gone pale. Judge Morrison reviewed her notes. "Mr. Chen, does your client wish to testify?" Dmitri leaned toward his lawyers, whispered urgently. Chen stood. "Not at this time, Your Honor." "Very well." The judge closed her folder. "I've heard sufficient evidence. Motion for emergency injunction is granted. All Volkov Industries assets are frozen pending full investigation. Mr. Volkov, you are ordered to surrender your passport. This hearing is adjourned." The gavel fell. Courtroom erupted. Journalists rushing for exits, lawyers huddling, federal agents approaching Dmitri. Marcus sat frozen in the witness stand, watching his testimony reshape reality. Catherine appeared at his side. "You did it." The bridge held. Through the commotion, Marcus saw Dmitri being led away by federal agents. The millionaire turned, met Marcus's eyes one final time. No smile now. Just the stunned recognition of someone who'd underestimated the wrong person. The invisible man had spoken. And everyone had listened. 6 months later, Marcus stood outside Columbia Medical School's main building. Spring morning. Cherry blossoms drifting across campus lawns. Students hurried past with backpacks and coffee, building futures. Maya emerged through glass doors, spotted him and ran. Her hug nearly knocked him over. Dad, you didn't tell me you were coming. Wanted to surprise you. He held her tight, grateful for this simple moment. How was anatomy? Brutal, but good. She pulled back, studying his face. You look different, healthier. He was. The weight he'd lost had returned. Sleep came easier. The constant vigilance had faded to manageable caution. Come on, I'll show you my lab. Maya linked her arm through his. They walked across campus together. Marcus noticed federal agents stationed discreetly nearby, protection that would continue through the trial. Dmitry Volkov's case had become federal priority. More victims had emerged, more fraud uncovered. The 80 million was just the beginning. Dad, I saw the news coverage. That interview you did with Channel 7. Maya squeezed his arm. I've never been prouder. The interview had gone viral. Former translator exposes fraud hidden in foreign language. The story resonated. Invisible workers seeing what powerful people hid. Marcus's face had become recognizable. No longer invisible by necessity, but choosing visibility. The SEC whistleblower reward had arrived last month. $2 million. Marcus had cried reading the notification. Years of rent worries, tuition anxiety, dissolved in one payment. Your mom called, Maya said carefully. She saw the interview too. Wants to talk. Maybe someday. Marcus didn't feel anger toward Diane anymore. Just sad distance. Right now I'm focused on forward. They reached Maya's lab building. Through windows, Marcus saw microscopes and anatomical models. His daughter's world, built on his sacrifice and stubbornness. You're testifying at the trial next month, right? Maya asked. Yes, final testimony. Will you be okay? Marcus thought about the courtroom, Dimitri's lawyers, the pressure and scrutiny. Thought about Catherine's words, the bridge. Thought about 6 years of being invisible, and what happened when invisibility ended. I'll be fine. I'm just translating. That's what I do. Maya hugged him again. I love you, Dad. Love you too, sweetheart. She disappeared into the lab. Marcus stood watching through the glass as she joined classmates, laughing, belonging. Everything he'd wanted for her secured. His phone buzzed. Catherine Hayes, coffee later? SEC wants you to consult on another case. Russian financial docs. Marcus smiled and typed back, Sure, same rate as last time? Catherine, double. You're in demand now. He pocketed his phone and walked back across campus. Federal agents nodded as he passed. Respect, not surveillance. Students hurried by without noticing him, almost invisible again. But this time by choice, not necessity. At the campus gates, Marcus paused, looked back at Columbia's towers, then forward at the city spreading before him. Two worlds, connected by a bridge who'd forgotten he could bear weight. The emerald green uniform hung in his closet now, museum piece from another life. His charcoal suit had been cleaned, pressed, ready for courtrooms and consulting work. The translator was translating again. Not everything was restored. Not everything could be. But Marcus Reid had found something better than his old life. Purpose that matched his gifts. Visibility that mattered. And the quiet knowledge that speaking truth, even when terrifying, was always worth the cost. He walked into the city, no longer invisible, no longer afraid. 3 years after that morning in the conference room, Marcus Reid stood before a symposium at Georgetown University. Translation students filled the auditorium, notebooks open, eager for wisdom from the man who'd broken the Volkov fraud case. He'd been invited as a guest lecturer, the State Department translator turned janitor turned whistleblower. Proof that expertise never expires, only hides. Marcus clicked to a slide showing those original Russian documents. Everyone sees what they expect to see. Dmitry Volkov understood this. He hid fraud in plain sight, betting that nobody would look, and if they looked, nobody would understand. He advanced the slide. He was almost right. The documents passed through lawyers, accountants, investors. All educated, all careful, but they only read English. The truth was there, waiting in Russian, invisible to everyone who mattered. A student raised her hand. What made you different? Marcus paused, considering. I wasn't different. I was just in the room when truth needed translating. He smiled. And I'd spent 6 years learning that invisible doesn't mean powerless, the student persisted. But you risked everything. Your job, your safety, your daughter. Why? Because staying silent would have cost more. Marcus's voice softened. My daughter's in her medical residency now. Sometimes I think about what lesson I taught her. Not through words, but through choices. That dignity isn't negotiable. That expertise matters regardless of title. That speaking truth when it's dangerous teaches more than staying silent when it's safe. He closed his laptop, stepped away from the podium. You're studying translation because you love languages. But remember, translation isn't just converting words. It's revealing what people hide, building bridges between worlds, giving voice to truths that wait in silence. Some of you will translate for embassies, some for corporations. Some might clean offices while your skills go unused. Marcus met their eyes. Wherever you land, remember, your worth isn't determined by who recognizes it. Your gifts don't disappear when circumstances change. And sometimes the most important translation you'll ever do happens in a moment nobody expects, when you're the only bridge available. The students applauded. Questions followed about technique, about courage, about the trial's outcome. Marcus answered each one, sharing Catherine's lessons, his mentor's wisdom, the hard truths learned in janitors' closets and federal courtrooms. Later, walking Georgetown's familiar campus, Marcus passed the building where he'd studied 40 years ago. Young translator, full of ambition, certain his gifts would matter, they had. Just not how he'd imagined. His phone showed a message from Maya. Dad got assigned to surgery rotation. Your daughter, the surgeon. How crazy is that? He typed back, not crazy, earned, proud of you. Another message, Catherine Hayes, new case. Croatian financial docs. Need your eyes? The work continued. Languages still needed bridges. Truth still hid in foreign phrases. And Marcus Reid, former invisible man, former janitor, permanent translator, still built connections between worlds. Rain started falling, soft spring shower. Marcus didn't hurry. Let it soak his shoulders, wash away the last remnants of shame and silence. The moral crystallized simply. Respect isn't bought with titles or expensive suits. It's earned through competence, proven through integrity, and recognized eventually by people wise enough to see past surfaces. Dmitry Volkov had looked at a janitor and seen nothing. The world had looked at Russian documents and seen gibberish. Everyone had made the same mistake, confusing invisibility with absence. But truth doesn't disappear when ignored. It waits. And when someone finally translates it, someone with skills earned, dignity maintained, and courage found, power shifts. Not always immediately. Not always fairly. But inevitably, Marcus reached his car, paused with keys in hand, looked back at Georgetown's towers, forward at the city's evening lights. Somewhere frauds hid in foreign languages. Somewhere invisible people carried expertise nobody recognized. Somewhere truth waited for translators brave enough to speak it. He'd be ready. The bridge held. Final words from his mentor echoed. Language reveals what people hide, Marcus. Always listen to what they say when they think no one's listening. Marcus climbed into his car, drove into the evening, carrying languages and lessons and the quiet certainty that every word, every translation, every bridge, every truth spoken in the face of power mattered. The invisible man was visible now, and the world was better for it.